Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to view Shame from 2011. Not the same as Low Down Dirty Shame, because that movie is to be an action-packed film, and this movie is to have some action of a different kind. So, uh, we have to have me just kind of forewarn people that I'm to have to really need to go on and creatively figure out alternative phrases for things that are to be placed upon this film for obvious reasons. Because this film is to really much focus on a man looking for a lease. Let's just say. Firstly, I feel that I have to go on and really compare this movie to another film. And I go on and do that because really I feel that this movie is just to be a better film than this one, and it is to be a movie called Deception. Hugh Jackman and Ewan McGregor had gone on and done this movie called Deception, and really it is to be a fairly good story, which is to also have as many equal bedroom business scenes as this movie is to go on and have, as well as you are to also root for the main character throughout that entire film. And really, it's just, again, a better movie. And to be fairly similar to this in a lot of ways. So, with that said, Shame is to be focused on the Michael Fassbender Brendan character. And Brendan, again, is to be a man who is to really be focusing on this release, let's just say. And he is to go out of his way to either find these women at night or is to pay for said release. And Brendan, we come to find, sadly, through the further and further we get into this film, that this man is to really not be looking at a woman in a long-term relationship sense, that he is to be much more of a wham bam, thank you ma'am kind of guy, for whatever reason that could really just legitimately be. But again, we really just realize that this character is feeding an addiction. So much so that the more and more that we peel back the layers of this movie, we come to find that Brendan is consistently on the internet, consistently having an assortment of visual aids, let's just say, in his home, and is to be going through any means to figure out how he can, uh, by night to night, find a connection with another person. And so we have Brendan, who is to also have a sister, I believe her name is Sissy, during this film. And we come to find that Sissy is to have certain scars upon her arm, which would eventually lead our main character to really, the further and further he is to be involved in Sissy's life, he is to maybe even more so be driven into this addiction, but then also is to be more and more upset with this Sissy character, who is to possibly have it seem be a freeloader in Brendan's eyes, but also does not go on and deserve the aggression that Brendan is to deliver at some points in this film. But Brendan is to also come off as a person that does not welcome Sissy. But the more and more that it seems that Brendan is to consistently try and state that he does not welcome Sissy, the more and more that Sissy is to just want as much as possible to do the very opposite. And it is to drive these characters into eventually the twists and turns that these two are to go through within this film. So, with that said, this movie is very dark. It really is. Um, but also, in all honesty, when people are looking for a certain kind of film, uh, and no judgment, hey, like, in all honesty, I feel that we all eventually need a film that is somehow uh, give us some kind of enjoyment, I guess. But then also, I don't know if exactly you would really point out to this one and say that that is to be quite it. But with that said, quite easily you can probably assess where I'm going to grade this film as it's just bad. Like, I don't feel like it's awful. Like, I don't feel that uh, this hasn't been also my first time ever watching this as well. I've seen it more than once. But really, I'm kind of glad that I hope that this is going to be the last time that I see this film. Um, because, like, there's not enough story in it. There really is to be a lot about this film that I do not enjoy, especially from the aspect of this guy just kind of getting by his looks, but then also I don't feel like he actually cares about the people that he used to be with in this film. It's all to just kind of be a throwaway to him, sadly enough. So, with that said, let's not go on and throw this movie away. Uh, to really just say, let's go on and break this down in the full on spoiler endeavor. So, I feel that, especially in the early parts of this movie, there are to kind of be these kind of repeating scenes. So, for me, it is not so easy to break down this film, especially when I don't even have notes this time around. But also, I feel that there are certain portions of movie that are more interesting than others. Because really, if I'm gonna have to go and break down that a character had gone to the toilet and peed, like, then really I would have to go on and say every single second of this film, uh, for one reason or another, to have it say that it holds importance to me talking about it. So, with that said, I think we're going to get to a point where it's double five time territory, and it of course is to, as usual, be spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this movie. Let me go on and pause this. Let me get the cast list, and let's get on with the spoiler portion of this film. Again, I'm going to have to, of course, curve around and say other words rather than just saying uh, a three scene, definitely. A three pack scene. If you know what I mean by watching this film, stuff happens. Bedroom, otherwise, locales. Yeah, let me pause here. Let me get out the cast list. Let's go into this. All right, if I haven't said also already, you can see this film on Amazon, I believe, and really, it's kind of funny that this is just so easily available on Amazon, because I'm like, man, like, think of all the other movies that are just so much so something I really want to see, but then when I'm looking at it, I just can't find it anywhere. Sadly enough. So, Also, you can check out Zelifonic, Zelivonic, or a app called Manic, that is to be Mannic, that are to be both available on a Google Play Store via a mobile phone use. So, or you can go on and download a APK through Google of an app called HDO Box. Again, like it's kind of really stretching it when you can already see this movie on the other apps of which that I've mentioned. So I'm going to go on, and the way of which that how I'm going to approach this is if there's certain kind of scenes I feel like I want to go on and tell like the whole tale of those things, and then kind of break this down in a certain kind of just a strange manner. So if this does not feel quite perfect enough for you, as far as a review is to go of me breaking down this movie, then again, go on and recheck out this movie if you have not already, and go on to check out other people that have gone on to probably review this movie, which I'm sure there is. I'm really sure there is. There probably is better people that have gone on to break down this film. But anyways, let's go on. So we would have Brendan, who is to seemingly be waking up for the day and is to probably be taking uh, a bathroom break right out of the gate, just bathroom breaking. I don't know what's going on. So Brendan, it seems, is to be getting ready for his morning and is to be making his way to the subway train. Never really know exactly the perfect way to uh, break down subway train scenes. Is it a subway? Is it a light rail? Is it a north rail? What the heck is it? But like, to each their own. I'm calling it a subway train because that's what it says legitimately on the IMDb. So we have Brendan, who is consistently on this subway and is seeing this woman, and they have Brendan look at her or the girl look at him. And there is a point in this film where this girl does go on and get up to stand uh, and hold on to this pole. Brendan is to also get fairly close and hold on to this pole. But then when it seems that Brendan and this girl are to leave said subway train, it seems that Brendan is to never go on and be quite fast enough to reach this girl to probably go on and actually have a real conversation with her. Or maybe he realizes that it is never really meant to be between the two of them, but they bizarrely just have these moments that maybe this girl is to be a tease, maybe Brendan is to really just be freaking lazy. I don't know. But, anyways, the further on we go with this journey. So, Brendan is to go to this job where I think that he is just consistently on purpose late too. Brendan is to have these excuses at certain points to just be like, oh yeah, I had like a root canal. I told you about this. Oh, did you? Oh, what doctor did you go to? Oh yeah, I went to this doctor. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. So we obviously have to realize that Brennan probably does not like his job. He probably used to sneak away far too often to go into the bathroom to reach out and release somebody, aka himself. So Brendan, we come to find, is to lose his computer typing abilities because by the time he is to go on and get a new one, he is to be told by his boss David, it's like, well, hey man, like there was a virus on this computer, and man, it was just wall to wall with just all kinds of scenes, like all kinds of stuff. Like, man, for the person to have gone on and really have taken the time to find all of these things, like there is something really wrong with that person. And we come to find out that that has to go on and actually legitimately be Brendan, who is to have gone on and used this computer for these said purposes. Because we come to find that Brendan eventually, when he is to be home, seemingly alone through most of this endeavor, this guy is consistently just watching these scenes. He's not going on and uh, how can I say this? He's not going on and releasing himself, but he is going on and just kind of just watching these scenes, maybe for some kind of mental enjoyment of some kind. But hey, to each their own. So Brennan is eventually going with his boss to go to a bar to eventually see that his boss is going to be failing miserably at obtaining these women, any number of them, as David is to go on and be talking to these girls that obviously have him much more realize that he does not really care about them, to the point of them closing their eyes and having David be asked, like, well, hey, like, what color eyes do I have? And David gets every single one of them wrong. To where Brendan swoops in and he is to be asked the exact same thing, and Brendan is to be seemingly correct by every single one of the colors. To where the women are to be fairly impressed with Brendan, and David is to go on and just be like, oh no, he's making this up. Like, he wasn't looking, like, he wasn't paying any real attention. As Brendan had gone on with a number of buddies or co workers and be placing bets that David was going to F this up. So, Brendan, it seems, is talking to these girls so smoothingly well, and really, if I was to have ever seen anything like the Pickup Artist or any of those other kind of goofy uh, things where a guy would come in and have this kind of opening line and then kind of start working these people, so to speak. Brennan doesn't really have to go on and work for anything. He just has to show up and immediately, like, the girl is to be like, like, can I go on and can I, like, have him come with me to my place? Like, sadly enough, like, why I'm to also go on and say, like, pickup artists is because deep down, like, even those guys who are to possibly off the top of their head, like, randomly come up with all of these kind of weird things to eventually figure out a way to much more talk to these women. We even find that those pickup artist guys, like, are to really just try and, like, have a real a really good moral center to be doing what they are doing. It's like, well, hey, like, yeah, like, I'm trying to get to figure out a way to talk to these women, but, like, I also want to turn around and have something meaningful with every single one of them. To where Brandon is to eventually key into one girl and is to also have these girls interested in him, but he is just like, oh no, like, I've already spotted the one that I want, and the one that I want is to be the one that David's talking to, of course. Because if David is to, or is, if David is to also be dancing with this girl, and obviously, like, things aren't quite working out, Brendan is to seemingly still go on and much more swoop in to also look at David and just be like, yeah, dude, like, this isn't going to work out for you this day. This girl, this is the one that I want. So by this whole encounter, we have David that is almost kind of pleading and groveling to this girl, and she is to have really no interest. And so David is just forced to give up, to where we in turn eventually see this girl driving off to seek more of the interest of Brandon. And so they drive off and they have their passionate makings of sorts. Passionate, not quite sure, because Brennan is just like, hey, how can I just get this release? So we again, throughout a portion of this film, mix it up and have Brendan, who at some point is going to be paying for his late night endeavors. And so we kind of see those scenes mixed in here. But then also, we have certain points have this answering machine message consistently going off every single morning. Coming to find out that every single one of these messages are all coming from Sissy, who is to go on and really in desperation want Brendan to pick up the phone. It's like, hey, like I'm talking to you. Like to the point of her like absurdly through these messages eventually mention that she is to have an illness of some kind and she's gonna die in a week. And Brendan still won't really pick up the phone and try to reach out to her. So it forcibly gets to the point to where Brandon is consistently going out with all of these women, and when he is to come home one night, he is to come to find that there is music playing in his apartment, to where he's just like, okay, what the heck is going on? I'm gonna come through my apartment with a baseball bat to see what the heck is going on. So Brennan makes his way through this apartment to come to find that his sister is within his shower, and Brennan is to be scared by Sissy. Sissy is to be scared by Brendan. And furthermore, Brennan is to throw his towel uh, to Sissy. Just be like, well, hey, like you didn't call. And Sissy's like, I called you a number of times. Like I told you, like that I needed to be here and this and that. So Brennan, of course, is like, okay, like I'll put up with you for tonight. But then it seems the more and more that Brennan is talking to Sissy, the more and more Sissy is to be like, well, hey, like, can I stay here for a little while? And Brennan is like, really? Like I just thought this was gonna be for the night, but then like it just seems that the sister just continues to be further and further in Brennan's life, to the point of even commandeering his bed at some point of the story. So Brennan is to wake up the next day to offer Sissy some orange juice, which she just starts drinking it out of the carton. And Brennan's like, well, hey, like, I have glasses. Like, drink it out of a glass. And also, it's like, I don't know where your lips has been. That's what I would have said. But that would have been a very dirty joke. But so Brennan goes on and is talking to Sissy, and she's mentioning about how she is to have this this gig, which really just means that she's a musician and she's singing. So Brennan's like, okay, like I guess I'm forced to check this out, so I'll go in and I'll do so. So Brennan and his boss make his way to this club that Sissy is singing in, and Brennan goes on to wait for his sister to perform, and she ends up singing the New York, New York song. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. You know that tune. So very much connected to a number of films. More than likely, most popular from the ending of Gremlins 2, I think. I don't know. There could be a number of other ones. But, anyways, uh, more than likely, pick out the one that you know that's to be your favorite of that song being used. But so, maybe this one. I don't know. Maybe this movie is your favorite for whatever reason. So, Sissy goes on to sing the song, and it is to be at such a slow pace to where we have to applaud the approach of this and just be like, okay, like this is very entertaining. It seems that David is to immediately swoop in on Sissy, not even giving it a moment's thought to turn to Brennan and just be like, oh, this is your sister? Maybe I should ask, like, if I should even be looking at this girl and uh, getting in my further approach in to betting this girl, which it seems that this is to be a thing that ends up happening. So, Brennan, we come to find, is to be in a taxi cab with both David and Sissy as they are kissing and they are heading up to Brennan's room. And Brennan is now just like, seriously, like she's going to probably take my bed and have sex with this guy into that room. I probably should not have even said that, but oh well. And so Brendan is like, man, I don't want to go to my room. I don't want to go to the room that should actually be mine, the place that should actually be mine. And Brendan is to now be forced to like be wanting to just kind of kick his feet in the lobby to go into his place and to change his clothes to then go for a run because since I guess he can't get his release, he's going to instead go on and figure out a way to get some kind of other stress release by jogging, which hopefully will also get rid of his depression and a number of other things. Because at some point, that's where I had gone on and worked out for uh, quite a bit of time trying to do until eventually I had gone on to actually injure slash hurt myself, and then I was like, well, like I guess I'm much more forced to um, kind of take it slower, or in a lot of cases, just kind of uh, rest for a period of time and then get back into it when things have healed. So we would have Brendan that when he is to finally get home, once Sissy is to not be using his bed, and Brendan is to take every bit of his sheets and put brand new ones upon it. And so Brendan is to get into his bed and start to rest up, realizing he needs to be at work at a certain time. And so Sissy is to just kind of jump right into Brendan's bed and is to mention how cold she is. And Brendan's like, I don't care. Like, this is my bed. Get out of my bed. And the further and further that Brendan is to, again, tell Sissy, it's like, hey, this is my bed. Get out. And she does not listen. So Brendan has to say it in a more aggressive tone to where she gets out of the freaking room. So Brennan, the further and further interactions that he is to have with Sissy because she is to be hated being here in Brennan's presence, even though Brennan has kind of really just stated this to Sissy in a number of ways by ignoring her and a number of other things. But so Brennan is to eventually get into Sissy's face about how he hates her and uh like he hates the fact that she is such a freeloader that she can't even go on and clean up a litany of any things that she should at certain points. And so, really, I think also the root of Brennan's real legitimate anger is just the sheer fact of him not being able to easily go on and sleep with anybody willy nilly while also Sissy is to be there. And so I think that's the real root of Brennan's a holiness. So Brendan finally goes on and is to even rent, I think, a room for him to continue his activities. So Brendan goes on to uh, consistently go to work. And we would, of course, have David as boss, who's to come to Brendan and is to uh, have Brennan's computer taken away from him because there is to be a virus be placed upon it. And then when Brendan is to have a talk with David, David is to say, it's like, well, yeah, like for some reason, like your computer had this virus on it and it had a lot of stuff, in depth stuff that I can't go on and state here. A whole lot of genre of things, a whole lot of scenes and stuff. It's like, man, like whoever it was that was to have put all of this upon your computer, man, like, yeah, like, we should really look into those tech guys, or we should really look into these other people besides you, Brendan, yourself, to have been the culprit to all this. And so, Brendan is to also, at some points, be forced to go into his job's bathroom and kind of need to give himself a release, and so I guess he used to not have a visual aid to have been presented to him to assist in that. And wow, what a shame. So, as I heavily want to roll my eyes. And so, too bad we couldn't have things like cell phones during this time era. But, anyways, uh, Brendan is to eventually be able to get back the services of this computer, but it's all really to help us much more understand how much of addiction that Brendan is to go on and have. So, Brendan at some point is to be in the office and is to be mixing his drink, his coffee, and is to have Mari-Ange talk about, like, I guess you like a little bit of sugar with your coffee. And Brendan is like, yeah, I do like some sugar with my coffee. To then have us translate that whole talking of, like, well, hey, we should get to date together, which the date turns into this very awkward, weird thing to be witness to, but it is what it is. Especially when Mari-Ange is to really just go on and mention how, like, yeah, I spent an hour to get ready, and Brendan is looking at her. It's like, well, yeah, it was well worth that time. But then also, like, it feels that Mari-Ange is looking at this relationship that she's having with this person at this moment to just be like, hey man, you got to give me something, or I'm just gonna go on and realize like how much a waste this was. But so Brennan and Mari-Ange are talking within this date, and that's where we get to where Brandon is to mention how, like, he doesn't see a relationship going in a long distance like term or getting married to somebody. And Mari-Ange is to, of course, see the opposite. And so the further and further they are to eventually talk with one another, Brennan is to ask Mari-Ange, it's like, well, hey, like, where do you see yourself uh, in either the present, the future, or the past? Like, who would you want to go on and be? And Mari-Ange's like, well, I don't know. Like, who would you want to be? And Brendan mentions that he would like to have been a musician in the 60s. And Mari-Ange's like, well, um, like, a musician, yeah, that is really cool. But in the 60s, like, I don't know, that was really a chaotic time. And also, like, uh, Mari-Ange wants to live way much more in the present, to where Brennan's like, why would you want to live in the now? like, but anyways, so like, I think that is also fairly telling for how much Brandon does not really enjoy his job, because he would much rather have more aspirations to be a musician character or to just be someone other than who he really is at this moment. So Brandon eventually goes through the motions of this date. And really, by the end of it, we have Mari-Ange who's just like, well, like, this is where I'm at. And Brandon's like, oh, okay, like, so I guess this is good night then. And so Brennan, for once, ends up going on a date and he gets nothing out of it at the exchange of it all. But then Brendan just goes in and finds this girl and is to just kind of pull her aside and then bizarrely just starts kissing her. But for some reason or another, the interaction between the two of them, it works. Mari-Ange is to all of a sudden start to kiss onto Brandon and vice versa, and Brendan is to then like have him and her kind of just walk away from this job and go into this apartment building where Brendan is to then realize that Mari-Ange may have gone on and had some vintage undergarments, it seems, and it's just like, well, hey, like whatever you're comfortable in. And Brennan is to also like have that one interaction with Sissy where she is to mention how she's making loads and loads of money, and Brennan makes a joke where it's like, well, yeah, like, is it all hiding underneath that awful hat that you're wearing? And she's like, oh, this hat isn't awful, and like she tosses it onto his head, and like there's that whole kind of funny joke kind of going on with this hat that they kind of make a whole thing out of. So Brennan goes on to be with Mari-Ange, and he is to mix a little uh, candy magic in his nose. Candy magic probably meaning cocaina. Cocaina. And so Brennan goes on and snorts some magical dust of sorts to turn around and make his whiffy siffy not worky. And so Brendan, it seems, is to be in the throes of loving, and something is definitely not cooking in the oven. And Brendan is to pull away from Mari-Ange, and Mari-Ange is just like, hey man, like it's okay, like I get it. And Mari-Ange is to say, it's like, well, yeah, like how about I just go on and I leave? And Brendan's like, well, hey, do you want me to follow you out? She's like, no, no, like you've probably done enough damage. So the bizarre thing is he wasn't ready then, but I guess this is a whole now and later situation where it seems Brendan just turns around and is to not find um, an easy way to have performed earlier, but then is to find a girl that he is to have possibly paid to then have another moment with later. So we would have Brendan that is to further and further be involved in his Sissy story. To in the early stages of her character, she is to have these phone calls with this lover, to where she is just kind of saying anything to stay with him, but it seems that there is no real interest there. And when Sissy is to have got into this relationship with Brennan's boss, David, we have Sissy, who Brennan is to state obviously that Sissy is to have called and annoyed this Brennan guy who has a wedding ring on his finger. So, like, really, Sissy should have known where that late relationship was heading all along, but she is to just be a very much naive person. And so, Brennan is to eventually, at some point after getting all of the release that he is to finally get to the point of him even seeking out two other women and finally, I guess, maybe clearing his head. I don't know. Because Brendan is to consistently just be in showers, be in bathrooms, so on, so forth. So Brendan is to at some point call his sister and get no answer, to where he is to become more and more concerned because this girl is on the phone consistently calling him for whatever reasons. So Brendan getting concerned about his sister is to make his way into finding where she is to live, and by that time it seems that Sissy is to uh, be an attempt of self-harm, and Brendan is to be in the midst of self-harm, of witnessing his sister's self-harm. So he is to take her to the hospital. They are to bandage her wrist. That is, of course, when Brendan is to notice how many times that she has uh, cut into her arms, as it is to have been foreshadowed in the early scene where David is to go on and kind of mention how Sissy had gone on to hurt herself. But so this is at a point where Brendan is to really just start to spiral. And Brendan is to really push things much more further than he probably should. And Brendan is to notice a girl at the bar and is to start to talk to her. And the more and more he is to talk to her, the more he is to just be like, okay, like maybe I can go on uh, and see what is within her skirt. See if probably from the way I'm to probably have dialogue with her that she is to have a boyfriend present along with her. But really, I'm just going to go on and still lick my fingers and get what I want out of this whole situation. And then come to find out there is to be a boyfriend present, that there is going to be a kind of comeuppance to this whole scene here, where Brendan is to even state how he had already gone on and talked to this girl and forcing this man to smell his fingers. To furthermore have Brendan leave this location, to have this guy be running out to Brendan to consistently sock and punch him, to then have Brendan try to go into this club, which he no longer, I guess, is to have access to because of uh, one reason or another. Brendan is to go on and just kind of seek out this other club that is to be uh, seemingly mostly male interactions, and Brendan is to seek out this other man and have, of course, a scene that I can't go on and really describe. Sadly enough. But yeah, so Brendan is to be at such of a spiral that he is to break down and cry, falling to the ground while it is to possibly be raining out, Brendan is in tears, and the further and further more like this character is not to be more in the direction of seeking out help, but is also in not a state that he is going to really control his addiction. Like, he throws certain visual aids away, but he doesn't really further go on and figure out a way to really control himself. And I feel like that should be the ultimate goal in this movie, to have this character um, find a way to weigh himself off of this, to eventually uh, have this addiction become much more of a a thing to uh, like not have it like destroy his life or become so much more a focal point of his life. But that is the way that this story is to eventually just kind of play out, and that is the way of which that I am to go on and just state what is to happen within this film. But so, uh, yeah, I think that's it. That's all I have for this movie. And also, it's getting fairly late in the night because I don't really plan these all that well. And plus, also, I rarely even go on and like fully have a good strategy for day to day of what I'm going to actually talk about and review, because it really just changes per what I'm feeling, per what I ate that day, and also like it can change like the second as I'm going on and starting to watch a movie. Just like, you know what? How about I just watch something else instead? Because, uh, in all honesty, certain projects are really to be like a thing that I'm either kind of forced into, and that is obviously like I'm not going to enjoy that. Um, but then there's also things that like when just kind of randomly uh, things just kind of pop into my brain to where I'm all of a sudden like, all right, like I feel that me just finding this or me uh, thinking of this during this second of whatever time, like kind of very ADD, but it is what it is, uh, can really make me uh, just want to just try this out and see how that works. And yeah, whatever that means. That's what I'm working out in my brain. Uh, but yeah, so with that said, I'm going to get out of here so I can put this video out. Thank you for listening to this video and being a part of this channel for whatever reason that could end up being. So with that said, bye everybody. Bye everybody.